So this is Talking With. I'm Gil Matthews, your host today, and we get to pull back the curtain on life in Nevada County in the yesteryears. So today's podcast is Riding in the Back of a Pickup. Perhaps a strange title, but some interesting stories with our guest, Mimi Simmons. Welcome, Mimi.
Thank you, Gil. I'm tickled to be here.
It's great to have you, as always. Many of you probably know Mimi Simmons as the Simmons Realty Group, but we really don't care about that today. We're going to wind the clock back a few years and put you in your youth in Nevada County. So one day, you and I were giggling and talking about youth, and you mentioned riding in the back of a pickup truck. Tell us what that's about.
Well, yes, back in, we grew up in living in Nevada City. My father was a very adventuresome fellow and loved a lot of creativity, both in living and life. And he shows up one day with a Model A, and we were so excited about it because it actually ran. And the first thing that he and our family did was put a couch in the back of it. And so we used to drive around in the back of this Model A on the couch. So we actually had comfortable traveling. We never had to be down on the floorboards, which were half rotted out anyway. So to be on the couch was like the coolest thing.
Well, just where did you go in that?
Oh, we went to SPD to go shopping. We would travel down to Englebright, where we had an old barge. We would go explore up along Highway 49 up to Camptonville, Downeyville, Sierra City, and parts unknown, especially different roads that had no signs. Every time we would find a road that would split, we'd say, "Dad, where does that road go?" And he'd go, "I don't know. Let's find out." And we would just take off and go up these roads.
Sounds exciting. And of course, you put your seatbelt on.
Yeah, seatbelts. I don't think there was such a thing as seatbelts in the 60s.
Okay.
No, but we put sometimes the pillow of the couch over us just to protect us in case it tipped over.
Safety first is our motto here, isn't it? So where did you live as a kid in Nevada County?
So we lived on Ridge Estates Road over by the high school and used to climb down through the trails and the pathways down to the high school. Eschaton wasn't there, and so there was a place where we did a lot of forts and a lot of creativity. And we would just leave and tell our parents that we'll be back by dinner. And they never worried about us because they knew we were always safe. And so living down there was always very fun. And then we also lived on Sacramento Street in downtown Nevada City, so we could go down to the river. Being downtown in the city wasn't a big thing, but being able to escape down to the Yuba River was a very cool thing.
I bet it was. So one of the things I heard a story. There was something about Whisker Ferry or something like that. I don't know what that means.
Well, we, as I mentioned earlier, we had a barge, not a houseboat, but a barge down on Englebright, and my father was a school teacher at Nevada Union for 41 years. And in the 60s, they had to, all the teachers, the male teachers, had to wear white shirts, black ties, and be clean shaven. At the end of the school year, my father, as a personal protest, would grow a beard through the summer. And at the end of the summer, we would have the annual shaving of the beard, where he would stand in the water with a mirror and shave off the beard. And then he would take the beard hairs and put it into 3 baggies and give it to us 3 kids. And we would go home that night and stick it under our pillow, and the beard fairy would come and leave us a quarter.
Wow.
Yes.
All of that for a quarter.
So we grew up with beard fairies, not tooth fairies.
Did you ever have a tooth fairy?
Probably, but I think we only got dimes for the teeth. But for the beard, we got quarters.
Well, there's an economic movement up. I love that. So Where did you go to school when you lived there?
So Nevada City Elementary was 1st through 4, and then the old Seven Hills School, which is the original Nevada City High School. And from 5th grade to 8th grade, William Gallagher was the teacher, and it was a beautiful school. It was heartbreaking when they tore it down, and we were in the last class that graduated from that school. But when the plaster started falling off the gym floor ceiling and hit Mr. Gallagher, then they knew that they had to close down the school.
We receive signs in the most mysterious ways, don't we?
Yes, exactly. Usually tumbling down.
Yes. And then you moved on from there over to Nevada Union High School.
Then Nevada Union, and it was great because my dad taught there, and so anytime I wanted to cut class, I would tell my teacher that I would have to go see my father, and then they would say, oh, no problem, go ahead and see your dad, and then I would go off into parts unknown. I still kept my grades up, but just a little bit of daredevil, and that was grand fun.
It must have been great to be a kid here in Nevada County in those days.
It was, because life was so much more simple. I have a hat that a client just gave to me that says, I miss the America I grew up in. And that hat really touched me, because having a life of living in Nevada County, which was very simple, very slow. When it would snow during the winter, we laugh at the snowmageddons that we've had for the last 2 years, because we had that every single year. And the power would go out. It would snow 4 or 5 feet of snow, and we would live on the Franklin wood stove, cooked, did everything on that, had some Coleman lanterns, and that was a way of life. We built igloos every year because we had so much snow, and it was so neat because they would be huge, and we would use the branches and figured out how to do really neat things. We just couldn't spend the night in them. But and then the families that did not have a wood stove, that had an all-electric house, they would come and live with us. And that was great fun. The Spratt family, they had 7 kids, and so the Spratts moved in with us, and oh my gosh, we had such great fun.
Wow, exciting. That's caring for your neighbors in a very, very unique way.
It was second nature. It's what we always did. We always checked on everybody in the neighborhood and brought people firewood or food or anything else they would need. And if they didn't have power, clothes, or anything else, we all took care of each other.
What a wonderful world that was in those days.
Yes.
So the holiday season in Nevada County, even today, is a magical time. Was it still a magical time back in the 60s?
You know, Gil, every day was magical. It wasn't just the holidays. It was like the holiday was all the time. There was always adventures of things that we could do. There was 4 distinct seasons. So we had the heavy snow. We had the hot summers, beautiful spring, beautiful fall. And so with the holidays, we had family that would come up if they could. We couldn't always put them up at our little house, and so they would have to find a hotel. My grandparents would come up from El Cerrito, and they would always get a hotel because they don't want to stay in the calamity with all those kids. But we had so much fun, and like I said, I always say every day is Christmas.
Wonderful. I see you have a whole list of notes there. Am I missing anything I need to know about here, about the early days?
It's just some fun stories that I was thinking about when you asked me to do this. And this is just, this was a way of life, and we accepted it. Well, we had an old Jeep, and my father, again, wanted to explore, and my uncle came up, Uncle Gary came up. And so we were coming down the backside of Banner Mountain, and we, the kids are in the back. My uncle and my dad are in the front, and we drive down the back of the river, or back down Banner Lava Cap, and get to the Greenhorn River. And my dad says, "Oh, I can cross this because then we'll go up to the old town of Red Dog, which is on the backside of You Bet Road." So we crossed the river, except the river was a little bit deeper than we had anticipated, and so the Jeep, which was a white Jeep Wagoneer, started going underwater. The water started coming in. So my father promptly gets out and puts all of us kids on top of the Jeep until he can then carry us over to the beach and above the water. And then they had to go get help. Now, mind you, there was no cell phones or any way to communicate. So my father and my uncle climbed up the backside of Banner Mountain to be able to find a telephone, a landline, mind you, to be able to call Larry Mayworm, who used to own the Shell gas station and who had the only tow truck to be able to pull us out. And there was no homes on the backside of Banner Mountain, so my father had to actually go all the way down to Winding Way, so climbing from the Greenhorn River up the backside of Banner all the way over, and here they come tumbling down that road in the big tow truck. It was quite an adventure, but we just took it as, oh, this is an everyday adventure. We didn't even think twice of it. We had so much fun with so many different families that would be excited about getting on these adventures. My dad was also a basketball coach, and during the season, I would get to be his scorekeeper, which was very exciting. And we had an old '60s Volkswagen, and at the time in Downeyville, they had a basketball team because the high school was still going, and Nevada Union always beat Downeyville. But anyway, so we were going up to the Downeyville to play the basketball game, beat them, of course. My dad and I are driving back down Highway 49, and just above Camptonville, we hit this big old buck. Now remember, with a Volkswagen, the trunk is in the front and the engine is in the back. So we hit this big buck that's got numerous horns. I don't remember because I was so small. And my dad pulls over and says, "Okay, Boomer," that was my nickname. "Okay, Boomer, let's pull this thing out." So we try and pull it out, but it's so stuck in the trunk and with the grill. And so my dad said, "All right, get back in." And so we drove back Highway 49 with his head out the window all the way back down to our house at Ridge Estates Road. We land there with this deer attached to the Volkswagen, and then he calls all of his hunting buddies at NU, Cunningham, Gwynn, etc. "Yep, come on over, got me a buck." And they came over and got the deer out and stripped the deer, and we had venison all winter long. So it's his only hunting efforts that he ever made, but he was quite proud of that.
Wow, what a story, my gosh.
Again, we took it in stride all the time. And my dad was such a character because I remember when the freeway was being built, he was so pissed off that was happening, and this town's going to pot. That's it, we're moving to Downeyville. And us kids were all freaked out because we were going to be living in Downeyville. Obviously, we didn't, but he did not drive on the freeway as a personal protest for like 5 years. We're trying to get into Grass Valley. Nope, we're going Ridge Road or Nevada City Highway. Come on, Dad, let's go on the freeway. Only if we were good and it was a special treat could we drive on the freeway, which I think I heard years ago that the freeway was in the Guinness Book of Records at one time as the world's shortest freeway.
My goodness. So let's move along a little further on in your life from that. So Comstock Magazine is a prestigious publication about the Capital Region business community, and Winnie Comstock Carlson's the publisher there. And I think I know a story about you and the publisher of Comstock Magazine. Would you like to share that with us?
Well, there's many. Winnie grew up here too. And she is such a character. We had so much. She was a couple years ahead of me. She always loved all the teachers and my dad. I went to work when she was still working at Sacramento Magazine, and I went to work for Sacramento Magazine as this little whippersnapper. And I had no money. I had hardly any clothes, but at the thrift store I found some white go-go boots, and I wore these go-go boots to work every single day. And I think Winnie just looked at me and shook her head. Of course, Winnie has become so successful with her amazing magazine over the years. And just to see how much fun, and we each time we see each other, we still giggle. There's many, many stories, so I'm not sure which one she's bringing up.
She would mention the go-go boots.
Oh, she good. Yes. In fact, another very close friend of ours, Jim Ross, who used to also work with us at that time, is coming over from Hawaii next week. So we'll be able to see him, and I'm hoping to get him connected with Winnie as well.
How exciting, yeah. Winnie's a character, grew up on Sacramento, or up on Coyote Street.
Yes.
And a wonderful magazine that she has there. So, have you got one more story for us from the?
Well, I have. Let's see. I have a couple of them. I want to say that again, you just took for granted what adventures that you would have every single day. So each weekend when we had time off, we'd be like, okay, what are we going to do today? I remember driving up to this little town called Garden Bar, and my dad saying, now you have to recognize that soon this big dam will be filled with water, and that's now Bullard's Bar. So having been at the bottom of Bullard's Bar at the old mining town of Garden Bar and getting old mining equipment was very, very cool. Just fun stuff. I learned how to drive at Malakoff Diggings because you can't hurt anything up there. And I remember riding motorcycles up at Loma Rica, which I still, the airport is still Loma Rica to me, not Nevada County Air Park, and none of the industrial buildings were there. So we used to ride motorcycles. It was a great spot. And we'd never hurt anything, maybe ourselves a little bit, but that was just part of the territory.
What an exciting time to be here. I'm sorry I missed all that. I had to grow up in the desert, so I didn't get the joys of Nevada County. We did start off by saying that actually your fame is more in the area of real estate. So as a thank you for participating with us today, I'd like to hear about very quickly how you got into real estate. How did you get out of go-go boots and into real estate?
Well, it goes back before Go-Go Boots. When I graduated from Nevada Union, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was working at a program called CETA for the high school, and it was a job program that was you place young people into positions. And I worked in the law library for Harry Walters at the Superior Court, and I thought I was just so clever. And then all of a sudden, I'm graduating, and what am I going to do? And I decided, I'll become a court reporter because Leo Leeper was the court stenographer at the time, and he actually gave me his old stenograph. So I go down to the Argonaut School of Court Reporting in Sacramento. Now, I didn't have a car, mind you, so I had to take the bus all the time, and we didn't have a lot of money, so I worked at the Regal gas station from 5 until midnight to help put myself through school. But going through court reporting school for 2.5 years, and all of a sudden, one night I have this nightmare where I am desperately trying to communicate something life-threatening to someone, and I have 2 eyes, a nose, and no mouth. And I realized I couldn't be in a job where I couldn't talk. So that's why I got into sales. And so then I moved to the Bay Area, got started in publications, and then came back up and worked for Sacramento Magazine. Then decided that I am really a country mouse and moved back up to Grass Valley and went to work at the Union newspaper selling real estate advertising. And this was the days when you had to cut the color with an X-Acto blade, and then you'd run it off of a Xerox, and then you'd drive over the proof to the realtor and give them a proof of their ad. And one day I was down at Rolling Hills Realty in Penn Valley, and Beth Garcia says, I just made $600 on a commission, and I'm making $2.43 an hour, and I'm like, I'm going to become a realtor. I was corrected. It's only 2 syllables, not 3 syllables, finally. But so in 1984, I got my real estate license, and I've been doing it ever since.
Another exciting story from Mimi Simmons. Well, I really appreciate you being here today and pulling back the curtain on early life in Nevada County. So,
thank you.
So thanks much. This is Gil Matthews, your host for Talking With, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.